They thought she had it all. Beauty, fame, power. A woman whose face graced the covers of magazines, who stood before the world in designer gowns, speaking eloquently about causes she championed. But behind the lens, beyond the glamour and flashing cameras, Angelina Jolie was quietly searching. Not for another role, not for another award, but for something deeper. Something that could anchor her soul. And what she found, what she least expected, was a path that would change everything. A truth so profound, so illuminating, that it would silently pull her toward a faith the world misunderstood. Toward Islam. The world knew her as an actress, a director, a humanitarian, and a mother. Yet no one could see the private storm that raged inside her heart. It wasn't money she lacked. It wasn't love from her children or admiration from millions. It was peace. A kind of peace that fame couldn't offer. A kind of stillness that even the United Nations didn't provide when she traveled to the war-torn villages of Syria, Yemen, or Palestine. It began during one of those visits, one of many humanitarian missions that brought her close to the world's suffering. She sat across from a mother in a refugee camp in Lebanon. The woman had lost everything. Her husband, her home, her security. But in her eyes, Angelina saw no rage, no despair, only serenity. That encounter haunted her. Not in a frightening way, but in a way that whispered to her soul, "There's something more." As she kept asking herself, how could someone who had lost so much radiate so much peace? Why did her own life, overflowing with opportunity, feel so empty? She began to pay attention. The adhan. She heard it echo in the background during her travels. At first, it was just a sound. But over time it stirred something inside her. It wasn't just a call to prayer. It felt like a call to truth. A call to return. But return to what? She didn't know yet. She only knew that her heart was listening. Angelina began to read, quietly, privately. No cameras, no public statements. Just a woman searching for God in the pages of a book millions revered. The Qur'an. She read the story of Maryam, the mother of Jesus, how she was honored, not just respected, but venerated. She read about mercy, justice, patience, and sincerity. She read about the orphans, the widows, the poor, about a man, Muhammad, who stood alone and unarmed before the powers of his time and spoke only the truth. What struck her most was how familiar it all felt. As if her heart already knew it, as if she had always believed in one God, as if this wasn't conversion, it was return. Her journey wasn't easy. The media hounded her for answers. Rumors flew. Why was she spending time in mosques? Why was she visiting Muslim scholars in private? Why did her interviews start to include phrases like, "God willing," and "Alhamdulillah"? The world speculated, but she remained silent. Not because she was unsure, but because something sacred was happening inside her, and she wanted it to remain uncorrupted by noise. There were moments she wept, not tears of sadness, but of clarity. She remembered nights alone, her hands trembling as she reached for the Qur'an. She would read verses that spoke directly to her wounds, that told her, "You are not forgotten. Your pain is seen, your heart is known, and God is near." One night, in a quiet hotel room far from the glitz of Hollywood, she prayed. Not the way she had been taught as a child, not with rehearsed lines or rituals, but with sincerity. She bowed, she prostrated, she wept, and she whispered, "Guide me." And in that moment she knew. She wasn't asking the universe. She wasn't speaking to some vague energy. She was calling upon Allah. From that night on, everything changed. She didn't need to announce it. Her soul had spoken. She had embraced Islam. But embracing Islam didn't mean abandoning who she was. It meant refining it, deepening it. She still advocated for the oppressed, but now with a firmer purpose. She still stood for women's rights, but now with the understanding that true dignity comes from honoring divine design. She still loved her children fiercely, but now she taught them the power of prayer, the beauty of submission, the strength of mercy. What shocked the world wasn't that Angelina Jolie, a Hollywood icon, had accepted Islam. It was that she had found in it not restriction, but liberation, not fear, but peace, not silence, but a voice that finally made sense. When she was asked by a close friend why she chose Islam, her answer was simply, "Because it's the only thing that didn't ask me to be someone I'm not. It asked me to return to who I really am." Angelina's journey is not just about a religion. It's about a human soul seeking light in a world full of shadows. It's about the realization that success without submission is still emptiness. That love without divine anchoring can still leave you lost. That fame, wealth, beauty, all the things people chase, are meaningless if the heart is hollow. She began to change her lifestyle. Simplicity replaced extravagance. Silence replaced noise. Reflection replaced chows. She fasted. She gave more in charity. She read Qur'an at dawn. She found that the things she used to fear, submission, modesty, discipline, were now the very things that made her strong. And through all of it, she remained real, raw, honest. She never claimed to be perfect. She didn't start wearing hijab on camera or preaching to others. She simply lived her truth, quietly, powerfully, as if to say, "This is between me and my Creator." And that was enough. What made her journey even more powerful is that she didn't walk it alone. Her children saw the transformation. They felt the peace in their home. They witnessed the calm in their mother's eyes. And slowly, they too became curious. They began to ask questions. And Angelina, with patience and love, shared what she was learning, not with force, but with grace. She often says that what healed her wasn't religion as a label. It was submission as a lifestyle. She didn't find Islam in a mosque. She found it in the desert winds of a refugee camp, in the tears of a child who had nothing but still smiled, in the whisper of a mother reciting the Qur'an under a tent. She found it in silence, in surrender, in love, and she realized the world didn't need another celebrity. It needed realness, vulnerability, truth. And so she stepped away from the spotlight, not because she was running from fame, but because she had found something more important to chase: eternity. This journey, unexpected as it was, became the most defining chapter of her life. A chapter written not with scripts and lights, but with prayer and patience. A chapter not directed by Hollywood, but by divine wisdom. In the end, Angelina Jolie didn't convert to Islam. She returned to what she always knew deep inside, that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. Her story is not just hers. It belongs to every heart that has ever searched, to every soul that has ever felt empty despite having everything. It is a reminder that no one is too famous, too broken, too lost to be guided. That sometimes the path to truth doesn't start in a mosque. It starts in a refugee camp, in a question, in a whisper. And if you listen closely, it may just lead you home. And maybe, just maybe, her journey was never about changing religions. It was about finally coming home to the truth her soul had always whispered.